Well, hello everyone. We're coming to you live, or maybe you're catching us on the replay. But we're going to recap a trip that we just took down to Texas, and we had several stops along the way. And I thought it was a really fun trip, and I thought we might be able to give our listeners some great ideas of places that they could stop if they want to have a summer road trip. So this is going to be a different kind of a live video than most of the ones we talk about. Usually we're talking about product and things that we have here in the store, but today it's going to be a little bit different. And I think we might get into a little product when we start talking about when we went to market.
Yeah.
But we're going to just start out. I'm Vicki Adrian. I'm been the owner here of Adrians Boutique for 34 years, in case you're new to our store. And this is Maren Berblinger, and she is our college intern. She's a student at K-State. And Sandy Brooks, who many of you know, she's been with us for several years. She does a lot of our fashion buying. She's here almost every day, and so, you know, you're used to seeing her, and I know you've seen these girls several times this summer on live video. So I'm just going to start, and you girls can just jump in at any time. This was about 2 weeks ago. In fact, I think 2 weeks ago today.
Today, yeah.
Exactly.
That we started off on our adventure. And we were actually going to, our destination in the end was the Dallas Market Center. Sandy and Maren had never been there, and I wanted Maren to have that experience of going to a market, because Maren, tell them what you're studying at K-State.
Yeah, I'm actually studying marketing at K-State, so it was super beneficial to see how that all works and just learn a lot from the whole experience. So.
It was cool.
It was fun. It was fun.
Having you along.
Yeah, it was really fun.
So I wanted Maren to come along because I wanted that younger eye, and Maren's got great taste, and I just wanted her to have that experience. And so we started out. We left early.
6:30 a.m. That's good.
We stopped by Maren's house and picked her up, and my husband was our chauffeur. He drove us everywhere we wanted to go, and he had some great ideas of places that we could stop. And so then we headed out and picked up Sandy along the way, and our first stop was
The Doodah Diner. Was that,
Or,
or did we go to
no, Penny's.
Penny's Diner.
Penny's
Yeah.
Diner in Wellington. And what do you remember about that stop?
It was so fun. The place didn't even have locks on the doors because they were just open 24/7.
Yeah,
That was neat.
it's a cool place.
And I guess for me, when you sat at the tables and they didn't have to come around to your table, they just leaned over and they were able to serve you, which is
Yeah.
It's
great.
true. It's a very traditional diner, and it was actually built by the railroads for railroad workers, so that they could stop and get a meal very, very quickly. And these are I can't remember now how many are around the U.S., but we have actually stopped at some other ones. So if you're headed south out of Wichita, stop by Penny's Diner in Wellington.
Yeah.
We had great service. The food was very good, and it was just a good place to
fun.
stop.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
well, then we just kept going south, and our next stop was
Pops, I believe.
it
Pops.
was Pops. Why don't you tell a little bit about Pops, Maren?
Well, it's just a giant stop along Old Route 66, and it has a ton of old-fashioned pops, probably everyone you can imagine. And they're just like lining the walls. It's just a glass building, and you can see them. When you drive up, there's a giant sculpture of a pop bottle. And it was a neat place. Yeah.
It was, and it is at I believe it's called Acadia, Oklahoma. And as you're heading south, if you come to the Edmond exit, if you go right, you're going to go into Edmond. If you go left, it's about 5 miles, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
roughly,
wasn't far.
to Acadia. And then, Sandy, you want to tell about where else we went in Acadia?
Well, we did the barn. This
Yeah.
really old barn, and it was so cool. We did go inside and up, and I don't know, the peak of it was. You guys can tell better than I can, but it's just, I mean, it was so amazing. I've got pictures I wish I could show.
Well, maybe we'll make a little photo album that we can attach to this.
But yeah, a museum in there. The man talked to us about, and he was like the original
Well, he was one of the restorers, but he was in his 90s.
Yeah.
And he had grown up in the area as a boy and was very familiar with the barn. So he gave us a lot of good, juicy details about it. And now it's a great event place to have weddings. And I just love the workmanship and the craftsmanship that went into a building like that that's been around for so many years. I mean, just years and years. And it's really cool that they've restored that, and it's a great place to stop. So, okay, so we...
my notes.
Yeah, well, we
been
left
2 weeks.
there, and we continued south on the interstate, and our destination was to go to Punkin's Catfish in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. And we got there, we pulled up there, and realized...
No cars.
No cars. They're closed on Monday. So if you're traveling on a Monday, don't go to Punkin's in Pauls Valley. So we didn't even get out. We just kept going, and we used our TripAdvisor app to find another restaurant, because by now Penny's has kind of worn off, and we're starting to get hungry again. So we found a place called...
Was it Chicken Run? Chicken Run. It had a little chicken with a motorcycle on the roof.
And that was in Marietta, Oklahoma. And it was off the beaten path. I think we drove 5 or 6 miles, again, off the interstate. And then as we were leaving there, realized we were really just one exit ramp ahead. It was really right by the interstate, and so it was very easy to get to. But I would call that real Southern cooking.
For sure.
It was
very good.
It was
Catfish.
very good.
Yeah.
So
And they did have fried pies, which we didn't try. But
we were too full. In fact, we went the entire trip and we failed to eat a fried pie on the whole trip. So I think that means we're going to need to do that
Next
another
time.
trip.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I think one of the things that I ordered there that was so different was a side, and it was just called squash. And I like
very good.
squash. But it was like diced yellow squash and a few green beans and a lot of onions sautéed in, I'm pretty sure, like ham broth.
Looks good.
But it was so good. And I know you girls had a good meal there as well. So that was a fun stop.
It was a fun stop.
Yeah. Little hidden gem.
Yes, little hidden gems. So then we continued on. We wanted to get to Arlington, Texas, because we have a friend there, Connie, who owns 3 Jean Allen's gift stores. And Connie and I have known each other for decades. But I just absolutely love Connie, and her store is so awesome. And part of our trip was that we wanted to get out and see other really awesome stores so that we could bring some of those ideas back to our own people here at Adrians. And so, Connie, I know you'll be watching, so just a shout out to you. And Connie gave us some great ideas to look for at Market, which we were doing a little bit later in the week. And she has a little place that she calls Connie's Closet. And so we kind of looked through the brands that she was carrying and found some fun things.
Yeah,
so what was your favorite takeaway from Connie's store?
She had a whole spa room with a fountain, and it was just beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was super calming to just walk into that room and
the water was that was awesome.
And the display.
The
and see
displays,
how she did it.
yeah.
And, of course, I always like the food area.
Yes.
And she had a counter of fudge, and pralines was good. And fashion, too. Her little closet was really cute, and just fun to see the different clothes that she had that we hadn't carried before, so we might be seeing them here.
And just so you know, we did steal some of those ideas. we did borrow from Connie's knowledge, and you're going to see some of those same things at Adrian's here in a little while. It's going to be coming in. But that was just a fun stop, and I enjoyed, and I'm just blank on her name, but she has a sweet lady that's worked there forever and that works in the candy and the fudge area. and she's done a couple of videos with Connie, and so I recognized her right away, and so it was neat to meet her in person.
Yeah.
It was a fun store. Yeah.
It was. And we didn't get to visit all 3 of Connie's stores that day because we were just running out of time. But I just wanted you guys to see what she does and how she does it, and just learn from that. So, okay, so we get back in the car and we're going down the road again, and I think we went all the way to Waco.
All the way to Waco, yeah.
We actually made it without stopping again. And with 3 women in the car, we did a lot of stopping. But got to Waco, and
we stayed at a really cute Airbnb.
yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. We went straight to there, and it was a neat 2-story. I wouldn't really call it a Victorian, but it was that era, but it was more modern lines. We stayed at.
And what was fun when we unloaded is all the Vera bags. That
That's true.
and so we lined them all up on the back porch, and we had to take a picture of everybody's Vera bags.
We'll try to post a picture of that too.
Yeah.
That was fun. Every time you opened the back of the trunk, it was so colorful and just so pretty with all the Vera that between all of us, we traveled in all Vera, and so that was fun. We met our hostess, which we got to learn a little bit about the history of the house, and her father owned it, and it had been a complete remodel. They'd done all the work themselves, so that was interesting.
It was really
Yeah.
nice. It was nice to be in a home.
Yes.
It was, traveling. And
It really was, and I think that's the first time you've been in.
Yes,
is that the
I
first
had-
Marin? Marin, is it?
It was
for
my
you?
first as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
very
I
good.
had not done that.
We've done it a couple of times, and it's just so nice. You just have that very relaxed feeling. We could all be together, and it's different than if we would have gone to our own hotel rooms. It's just really nice.
Yeah, because for those that wake up early and can go do things and get coffee going, and it was a really awesome experience there at the.
Well, and one interesting thing about that is this house was in the running to be on Fixer Upper, and she told us that story and how it kind of got down to the end, and they chose a different house, and so I thought that was interesting as well. So, okay, so we go searching for somewhere to have dinner, and again we're driving, and I can't remember where we were looking for, but
I think it was a burger place, and they were closing in like 5 minutes, so we decided not to.
Couldn't do that. We stayed too long at Connie's, so we were a little bit late going out to have dinner. So we're driving around. So we look at our second choice, and we're headed there with the GPS, and we round a corner, and all of a sudden it was like, ta-da!
In-N-Out.
In-N-Out burger. And I didn't know that there was an In-N-Out burger in Waco, or it would have been on the itinerary. I'm a Southern California girl, grew up with In-N-Out burger, and I absolutely love it. And so after that, there was no voting.
No voting.
No voting.
Just going.
That's it, right there.
And we've taken Sandy to In-N-Out Burger on a different trip, but Marin had never been to an In-N-Out Burger, and so we had to, introduce her to In-N-Out. And
I think she's convinced now.
Yes, it's very good.
Beat her other stop.
Yeah.
So, and I know they're in Dallas now. There's a few
Yeah.
In-N-Out Burgers. So, but if you're going to Waco, I would put In-N-Out Burger on my list. So we have our In-N-Out burger, and we are completely full. It's late, so we go home. Nothing exciting that night. We're all dead. We'd all been up since early in the morning, and so that was our first day. So,
And then day 2 was the
biggest.
Yeah, the big bread
was
baking
so
day.
It was the best. It was the best.
So Sandy, why don't you start us off with what we did on
Well,
the next
Tuesday
day?
morning.
Tuesday.
Okay, we headed to, and it's called Heritage.
Homestead.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Homestead Heritage, and Vicki signed up for it for us all to take this bread baking class, which was just amazing. And the place is just, I mean, you can't imagine what this is.
We'll try to put some links up on the video, or maybe I'll post it later today.
But we had to be there by 9, and we met the people, and I think there was a class of 9?
8 or 9
8 or 9
in our class.
And but we all got to make 2 loaves of whole wheat bread, cinnamon rolls, whole wheat tortillas, and dinner rolls. And it was just, I mean, what we all took from it and learned. And you know, I learned tons because I do bake, but that isn't something that I normally do is whole wheat bread. So it was a great experience.
It was a great experience, and it was an all-day deal. And Homestead offers a lot of classes for adults. Some of the other things that they offer would be like intricate woodworking. The lady that I had next to me as my partner, she was here from New Jersey, and her husband was doing a dovetailing for woodworking class, and he was there for the entire week. So she was taking different classes throughout the week, such as a sewing class. She was going to do the sourdough bread the next day, and a canning one. So what this group of people does is they just teach things for sustainable living. So they grow their own wheat. They actually we went to the grist mill where they were grinding their own wheat into flour, and we used flour that they had milled right there on the property, which was so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And the other people in our class were just really fun. They were a couple were from Texas. One was a mother's son, and and one lived only 3 miles away. And had never been there. And so that just tells you the power of local. Get out and explore your local surroundings first. And she was so impressed. And this place has been there for 20 years. And so
and they had all their different little buildings for all the what they were teaching. There was the weeding on looms and basket weeding and like you said, the
blacksmith, pottery, and they were all in beautiful like refurbished barns from New Jersey. So that was really cool to see.
And just the flowers and just everything out there was gorgeous.
Well, and I think we forgot to mention what I think is one of the neatest things is when you go into the property, you immediately see butterflies everywhere because they've been pesticide free since for years, 20 years or more. And so there were just literally butterflies everywhere we walked on the property. So we started our class. We learned a lot. We learned, and I've made bread before.
I hadn't, but it wasn't overwhelming, which is good. It was for all skill levels.
So we learned about proofing your yeast, and now for all of you bread bakers, you already know this stuff, but we didn't. I think we all learned things there that we didn't know. So we started the class, went all morning. Then we got to have lunch at the cafe, Homestead Cafe. Again, they grow their own lettuces. The salads were delicious. Just all of really the food was wonderful.
And such a variety. The meat, I think hamburgers and salads and chickens and just the flavors, and it was just amazing. And they let us take a look at the kitchen.
That's right. Sometimes all you have to do is ask. And with Sandy's background in restaurants, we asked if we could just go peek in the kitchen, and they took her all around in the kitchen.
It was fun to see how things are laid out elsewhere.
We love to see behind the scenes. And so that was just really cool. So we went back and continued our afternoon baking, where in the morning we mostly made the doughs.
Right.
And then it, of course, has to rise and do all of its magical things. So in the afternoon we went back and got to do the fun part, such as rolling out cinnamon roll dough. And now I've made cinnamon rolls with my mom for years, and I've made them on my own. But this was so different.
That's different.
They made a filling, a very fluffy kind of a filling, and she showed us how to exactly roll out your dough to an exact size so that they all went into your pans beautifully. And our stuff looked really good. We'll post a picture of that too later. But we made these homemade tortillas. They had griddles going, and we cooked those. It was
dinner
just
rolls.
So fun.
So we learned how to tie the little knots in the dinner rolls, and I love those. That was one of my favorites to eat anyway. And I think I did get home, and we used them as hamburger buns.
There you go.
There we go. Little sliders.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was just really fun, and we kind of wrapped up the day with Mexican food at
Yes. I
what was
can't
it
remember
called?
the
El
name.
Nino,
Something
like that.
something along those lines.
It was really neat because it was in a really cool, again, an old building with these beautiful windows.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to look that up. It had I think a parrot in the logo.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it did.
So we'll find the name of that.
Nymphas?
Nymphas.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Let's go.
Nymphas. You're right. So that was kind of our second day.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of had a relaxing evening there at our Airbnb, and next morning we got up again early. We had, of course, this wonderful breakfast
Yes.
waiting for us with homemade cinnamon rolls,
and
wonderful toast,
Toast
and
and-
Sandy
Oh,
had
yeah.
brought homemade jam from home. Who brings homemade jam with them on a trip?
So perfect.
But it
I
was
knew we would have a good end product.
Yes.
so we started with that, and then we got our little selves to Magnolia right away because we've heard how busy they are, and got there early, right around 9 o'clock when they were opening, and decided that we would stand in line first for the bakery, even though we weren't hungry at all because we just had our cinnamon rolls. But the line wasn't too bad.
No.
Right in
And they were so nice, and it just smelled. Oh, well, you can just imagine. We'll wish that came in a spray bottle.
Yes.
and of course we did buy.
We did
Yeah.
buy. Yes, we did. We did. We bought some little treats there, and then went out onto the property and just explored every corner of it. And as a retailer, I absolutely just loved watching how the operation works. And they've just done a superb job. In fact, we got to see Chip outside. We got to see they were filming him, and he was up on the big roof of the
Kind of warehouse.
marketplace
Yeah.
warehouse area, rappelling down, and they were filming him, and he was dressed in a winter hat and a winter jacket. Of course, it was like almost 100
Oh, yeah.
out and so humid. And here he was out here dressed like that. And evidently they had filmed a segment earlier this winter, and something had malfunctioned with it. And so they were having to recut that scene. And he was just dripping sweat when he got to the ground. But that was kind of fun that we got in on
He
that.
talked to us all. And
Yeah.
I know you mentioned it was kind of like everyone was waiting for the Queen because everyone had their iPhones out and they were all looking up. But that was really cool.
Good. But I think one of the things that made the place so special again was all the beautiful flowers, and I know Sandy had a question about one of the plants, and the lady that you asked. Tell that little story. She didn't know.
Yeah, she wasn't the one that dealt with that part of it, but told us who to look for, the color of the top, and they would be the ones that know all the knowledge of the plants. And so I found one of them dressed just
in a
exactly
green
like
shirt.
she said, the green shirt, and found out the answer to my question.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
knew. She knew everything about it. So, always ask when you're at a place and you just don't know. Just ask. It works really well. But we went inside and, of course, did some shopping and just got to see all the beautiful things. And Joanna Gaines has had such an influence on the home decor of the nation, not just in the South like she started out. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as when we got to market, just the influence of her that is just everywhere. And yet she's just so nice and warm and kind and friendly. And the other thing that I loved about their staff and visiting their store is just that the people working there were so friendly and so nice, and they're dealing with just these throngs of people every day, and every day you're going to just have these huge crowds of people, and yet they were just so friendly one-on-one.
They would always stop and ask where you were from and visit with you, and you know, it was like, you know, we were just getting to meet you and,
Yes,
and have fun
yes.
at the store. And the other thing there was the restocking.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right.
Restocking of
Yeah, we
of
liked
everything.
watching that. That the people working there were in charge of a very small physical area, and so like the moment someone bought a mug, another mug appeared there in exactly the same way. The store was never messy.
No.
And you know, there probably were at least 70 to 100 staff members there, and
Sure.
and so you know, you never felt like you were shopping in a messy environment, which is awesome in that kind of a business. So we went on. We visited a couple of other stores. One was the Spice Market, where we went upstairs. There was like I think 20,000 square feet of little mini stores. So that was interesting, especially since we've recently opened our little place in Wichita, and now have opened a second location in Wichita, which is kind
It's
of
on
the
the same
same
order.
Yeah.
thing. It's a shared space. So they had, I don't know how many vendors, but a lot. So in our building at Paramount Marketplace in Wichita, there's over 200 vendors, and I know this is probably at least that big.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And so that was an interesting
fun.
Yeah.
stop as well. So that was just fun, and we were so full from all this baking
Yes.
that we never really went and had lunch. We stopped at a picnic table and sliced up. Oh, no, we went to Heritage again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
we need
yeah.
to talk about that.
Yeah, the cheese part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
that was after all the shopping then, because we went out and toured the. You had done the cheese.
Right, we
one
we
other
had taken
time.
a cheese making class another time, but they had not built their cheese cave yet out at Homestead Heritage. So we went back out there because we knew we'd wanted to take some things home. And so we got to meet one of the people that worked in the cheese making facility and had for many years. And he gave us an incredible tour of the cheese cave and just talked about all the different cheeses that they're making there, and award-winning
Yeah,
won
for
awards
from
sure.
all over
all
the
over.
United
Yeah.
States. One of the really unique cheeses that my husband liked was the horseradish pecan. And I'm not a horseradish fan at all, but I did have some of it, and it was really good.
They even had a cinnamon sorghum cheese, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and we
It's
bought
really
some of
yummy.
that. It was very good. So just that whole process.
Yeah, that was one of the really cool things to see down because we got to go down in.
Right.
And see
to
the wheels.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the wheels
Yeah.
of cheese they had.
That was cool. And then we walked the grounds. They have a labyrinth that is made of all zinnia flowers that was just gorgeous. We walked a lot of their gardens, so they were growing tomatoes and peppers and okra and
About everything you
green
can imagine.
beans, about
Squash
anything
and,
you could imagine. Looked like watermelons coming.
Chickens were kind of placed in between.
Yeah.
Yep, and we visited with a man out there that had dropped his little 5-year-old off to be a helper, and he was doing a good job.
He was.
Oh,
This,
the
this
load of
little boy
carrots.
was just pulling carrots
Yeah.
right out of the ground, and that was so fun to just watch him discover the joy of working out in a garden.
Then we went on to the hydroponics
Yeah.
building where they have the fish going and feeding the plants with the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so cool to watch how they're growing all those greens for all the
Different
salads.
stages. You know, you could see the stages
Yeah.
as the little very start of them, and then they grew to be what
To where they were
you know,
harvesting
yeah.
them, and they serve them in the restaurant there. They sell them at their market, and then they give away what they can't use. And so that was just really, really cool as well. So we kind of finished up there. We went and had a little picnic lunch, and then we headed out of town and went north back towards Dallas, and got into Dallas early evening. And again, we're still so full we couldn't even do dinner. And so we
decided to swim.
we did decide to swim. That's right.
Yeah.
We did go for a swim that night at the hotel, and just had kind of an early night because we knew it was going to be a big day, and our work part of our trip started the next morning. And Sandy's been to market many times, but Marin had never been. So I'd like to hear what you were thinking, your first impression when you got to the Dallas market.
Yeah, it was kind of what I had imagined, just like a ton of different vendors and booths and things. But I wasn't expecting it to be so big. I know you had talked about like Atlanta, how massive that is, but Dallas was still pretty big and a good,
significant market.
Yeah, it was a good place, I think, for me to see first, to kind of a smaller scale, less overwhelming. But it was just cool to meet a ton of people, and they had a breakfast hosted at one of the vendors there, so we got to just learn the process. Yeah,
we had fun. We finished up a few items for Christmas. People always ask, well, what are you buying at this market?
Yeah.
Well, the reality is that things are so far ahead that a lot of what we bought would be for spring of 2018. But then we had product that beat us home as well. And so there's product that came in right now that was ready to ship, and then it will filter in through, I would say, March of 2018. But a lot of our main vendors were there. We got to stop by and see them, and I think we found some really, really cool things. And again, you just see the influence of Joanna Gaines, and we were talking about other people that have influenced the country at other times, and one of the first ones I remember would have been Mary Englebright, who was very colorful, and this would have been back in the 80s and 90s, and just the mark that she had, where all of a sudden, instead of all neutrals, you saw lots of color. And so she was a big influencer. And then, of course, Martha Stewart came along, who was the opposite of that. Very subdued colors, very lots of beiges and sages and earth tones. And there's been many others along the way, but now we have Joanna Gaines, who is just knocking it out of the park with the influence that she's having on our decor. And so, of course, she's a lot of neutral colors, beiges, whites, blacks, grays. Grays. And it was fun to see that influence and the farmhouse look that people are putting into their stores in Chicago and New York and LA.
A lot of the fun signage that we saw a lot of for all rooms.
Yes.
Just a fun look to display around and decorate with, and still seem cotton. And
yes, a lot of Southern influence, from T-shirts to the home decor. You know, people used to wear their thoughts. They wrote them in a diary. Now they wear them on T-shirts and hang them up on their walls. And so, anyways, we had our first full day there. Went out to dinner with a great friend of ours, Vernon, from Ohio, from Hartville, Ohio, and we went to a place called
Rodeo Goat.
And we had to wait a little while there, but it was a fabulous hamburger. If you're in Dallas, it's one of the #1 rated restaurants, and the concierge at the hotel had actually told us about it. And we walked down there, and
great service.
The service was fabulous. They grind all of their own meat right there in the restaurant. And none of it involves goat. Just so you know, it's all beef, no goat. But it was a fun environment. It was a fun place to have dinner. And then we all went and collapsed after that. And then the next day again, got up early. We had a early breakfast again, and the day got rolling. And you two did a lot of walking that day. I actually had meetings all day that day, but these girls were off on an adventure. And
we had fun just looking at different places that we may not have stopped, just to see what some ideas were that we could share with Vicki when she was done or the next day. And I don't know, it was a fun day.
We walked through the tents, which are like temporary booths, and so that was really interesting to see what people were selling.
A lot of startups. Just for our listeners that don't know, a lot of people just starting out that think, oh, I have a great business idea. I want to make hand lotion, and this is where they are incubated. They get their start in the temps, and this is where they prove their product. Do people want this? Is it, or does only your mother think it's wonderful? And so you see a lot of small little booths, not elaborate.
Yeah.
And but then, we have the guys from a couple of our clothing lines who were just so funny, Leo and Joe. And they are competitors, but they're right across the aisle from each other, and they just have a great time together. And I think one thing, Maren, that you mentioned on the way home was just the fact that these are real people.
Yeah.
You know that they're people that you get to know, and you realize that they're doing this incredible work. Leo, they print their own, they design and print and cut and sew all of their styles, their fashion items, right here in the U.S., which may not sound like a big deal. It's a huge deal. And he's keeping his prices as competitive as possible, which is really hard with all the imported clothes. And yet his prices are good. We've sold them for a long time. But that's really fun to hear you say, well, they're just real people, and you get to talk to them and see kind of their story and where they're coming from.
And the girls that were working, they tried on anything we wanted them, asked them to try on to see what we could look like, how they fit, how they sized, and that was fun too. Just
it was
a couple really nice gals.
Well, and then our last day, which was Saturday, again we were planning to leave by about 2:00, but we ended up doing a whole day at market, and just wrote a lot of orders that day. That was our get down to business, get it done kind of day. And so our chauffeur pulled up and picked us up right at the door, which was really nice. And we headed north, headed for home, and but Paul's Valley Catfish was calling.
Yes.
And so he was maybe doing a little bit over the speed limit, trying to get there before they closed at 8:00, because he wanted to get in on that catfish, which is so good. And we got there and right before 8:00 and realized they closed at 9.
We're totally good.
So we were good. So we got to end our trip with a really good.
Well worth it.
It's where Elvis eats, or so they claim.
And they have a pickle bar.
And they do have the only
pickle
pickle bar you've probably been to. But that was kind of our trip. We made it home about 1:00 in the morning, and it was a really fun week. I think we just learned a lot. It was a good learning week where we saw a lot of how other people do business, and just seeing where all that product comes from that ends up on the shelves here at our store and at stores across the nation, and just the process behind all of that. So it was fun to see it through Maren's eyes, and it was just fun to go.
It was just a fun, relaxing trip with the baking and just learning some different things around there that you don't normally see.
Right. Yeah. So I would encourage people to get off the beaten path. I think that's the one thing that we've had our store here way off the beaten path in the little city of Buhler, Kansas for 34 years. But it takes people getting off the path to come and discover us, just like we got off the path and discovered all these neat little places along the way. And I just think when you travel across America, it is so cool. And here being our 4th of July Independence Weekend, I just thought this would be a great opportunity to just, to let you know and talk to people and let you know to get out and see what's out there, make these little discoveries, and to support these small local businesses. On our whole trip, other than the In-N-Out Burger, which really kind of broke one of our rules, because we try to eat local, stay local, and buy local whenever it's possible. But we had a really interesting, fun trip, and we every place we went was a one of a kind of a place.
Yeah.
And so it was just super cool. So if you have any questions at all, whether it be from Pumpkin's Catfish or the Chicken Run or visiting Homestead Heritage, and I do know their website, and that is www.sustainlife.org, and that's where you can find about their classes and the restaurant and everything they're doing there. That, you know, even Fixer Upper, it's so unique, it's so different, and a great place to go and visit. So I think these are just some fun things to do. If you have any questions at all, be sure to let us know. And in the comments below, if you would just let us know, have you ever been to any of these places?
Yeah.
Whether it's Penny's in Wellington or Fixer Upper in Waco or Homestead Heritage.
Yeah.
And actually, Sandy and I were at the farmers market here in Buhler Saturday, talking to a girl that had baked goods, and she had relatives that were in that community down there.
Wow.
And so that was so cool. It's always a small world. So thank you so much for going with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Yeah.
it was
What a
just
treat.
really fun. It was just really fun. So I hope you all have enjoyed this. I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. And I know this is a little different. Let us know what you think of this little format. But we thought we'd just share our trip with you today. So we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.